Hi, my name's Peggy over there. I'm an energy healer and medical intuitive. And today I would like to speak to you about what can happen to you after an energy session. So I want to start with a bit of a story. After I had my 3-hour session with the medical intuitive where my gut issues almost disappeared overnight, I had this massive heart expansion. I felt amazing. He told me I was a medical intuitive. It was this crazy activation. I really felt incredible. But then over the next few days, I developed this horrible cold, this runny nose. I felt awful. And I actually just had to stay home from work for a few days because I was still in my old job. I was a little bit shocked because I thought to myself, I'd spent all this money for an energy healing and why am I sick? Well, what I didn't realize is this is actually quite normal. And the more I resisted, the worse it got. And I didn't rest enough at the beginning, and then it just really hit me. And this is actually quite common. And so when I send the recording to clients, I always send them a link to an article that I wrote outlining what can happen to you. So what can happen is that your symptoms, your fatigue, cold symptoms, headaches, runny nose, pain, it can actually get worse before it gets better. So what's happening on an energetic level, as it's been explained to me by Dr. David Clements, it's as if you have a clear glass of water, but there's some mud at the bottom. And as you shake that glass, all this sort of mud rises to the top and comes to the surface to be seen. So energetically, what's happening is that these lower densities that have been worked on, perhaps it could be subconscious programs, there could be energetic blocks, as they're met with light, as they're met with love, as they're met with this healing energy, they come to the surface and they want to be released. Our job is to integrate and rest. Now, I learned this the really hard way as I went through, so I had that first expansion, and then I developed these channeling abilities, and I was doing a lot of channeling, and my heart was getting bigger and bigger, and I was holding these frequencies, and it was so intense, but I was still working my day job. So every day I would come home, I would jump on calls with my mentor and other people, and I would practice channeling, and I was just doing too much. And I started getting a sore throat, and I started getting a bit of pain in my chest. And I was like, oh, no, I'm getting sick. Why am I getting sick? Oh, my heart's not opened enough. And I was really, really getting mad at myself, thinking I should have this. Like I'm doing energy healing. Why am I feeling bad? But the invitation, and I didn't realize this, was to rest. But of course, I didn't listen to this. I kept booking. I emailed all my friends who were healers going, please, I need a healing. I'm getting sick. And, sometimes it doesn't matter what energy healing you do. The body needs rest. And the body's going to do what it's going to do. And in the end, for me, I actually ended up going on antibiotics, and I had to go on the steroids because I was not in good space. I'd never listened to the first signs that rest. So now I really factor that in. After any time that I have a big session with somebody, I always make sure that I'm resting the next day, that I'm grounding next day. So these are the tips and tricks to help you integrate after an energy healing session. So first of all, what's normal? Okay, you can start to feel, and this is just physical symptoms. You can get cold symptoms. You can get flu symptoms. Your body can ache. Your body can feel really, really tired. So the invitation is to rest, hydrate, eat nourishing foods, ground, do those really gentle practices that help calm your nervous system down. So your gentle breathing, gentle stretches, yoga. It might be a warm bath for you. It might just be reading a book. It might just be cuddling with your pet. It could just be something soft. Now, very difficult if you've got a family and a job, etc. But just factor in this. When you book a session, you might need some time for integration. So that is just something to think about, and that there's absolutely nothing wrong if these things show up for you. Now, emotionally, this can also occur. What I have noticed is that when we're doing the subconscious work, this with the psyche, this deep wound from trauma, from past lives, from ancestral programming, from collective trauma programming, sometimes we're being a highlight onto areas of your life that you have thought about or you haven't thought about for a while. We're bringing in your inner child, we're placing in your heart. There's a lot of stuff that can come to the surface. Parts of you that might have not felt safe to feel upset are allowed to now feel crying. So the days following a session, you might find yourself feeling quite teary, sometimes quite flat. Now, this happened to me. The version of me that never felt safe to cry, all of a sudden felt safe to cry. I was crying in everything. Instagram reels, songs, etc. The other thing that I found myself was that I was kind of angry, and I was getting angry at people, and I couldn't believe But what it was is that I'd relieved these past lives where I had this, these vows of silence. And now I couldn't stand it when there was some kind of injustice, particularly at my workplace. And I did find myself going, whoa, I can't believe I just said that. But it's this newer version of me that was coming out to be seen. So that leads me to the understanding of there can be an identity shift. What happens is we highlight these, perhaps I highlight some gifts that you didn't, that have lain dormant, or weren't really sure that were there. There's parts of you that has stayed silent, that is parts of you that has overgiven. There's parts of you that didn't feel safe to feel angry or frustrated, and as we integrate those parts back into your collective being, your soul, your personality, and perhaps we've cleared some ancestral programming and other things, then all of a sudden your identity is kind of shifting. You might find yourself setting boundaries with friends and relationships, and what felt like aligned before no longer feels aligned. So this is part of a broader understanding of what the spiritual awakening journey that can happen, and a big shift can happen within a session. So you might go back to the job and it just feels pointless, or you've developed this new understanding of your gifts, of your soul purpose, and now you understand it's not aligned. And then there's this integration period, this mourning, this sadness, this confusion, worry, anxiety. This can all be quite normal because you're shifting, you're upgrading, you're aligning to your higher self, to your true self, and to your true calling. And that's why it can feel a little bit, discombobulating. The other thing I wanted to mention is that sometimes pain the energy work, it can have a very strong analgesic quality to it, meaning your pain can go away. So it might have started off as an 8 out of 10. At the end of the session with me, it's down to a 0. 2 days later, it's coming back. Now, what I want to explain with that is that oftentimes pain is your body's way of telling you that there's something to be felt. There could be a buried emotion. The way I see it is there's trauma. And oftentimes it's multi-layered. There could be a childhood wounding there. There could be multiple events within that childhood wounding. There could be past life or ancestral issues. And what we might have done is we might have unpacked and released, healed, integrated, whatever the words that resonates for you, one component of it, and then the pain has gone down, but it's coming back up. It doesn't mean that it didn't work. It means that you perhaps might need a few sessions. Now, there are some for sure, there are some physical ailments that, energy work doesn't work for, and it's a longer journey. And, this is not necessarily a quick fix. And even the best healers in the world, there's a guy called Charlie Goldsmith, they've done a lot of research on his healing, the energy healing he does within hospitals and with medical doctors. And he's got about an 80% success rate with pain. So you have to understand that, even with the best intentions, perhaps there are still some soul lessons that you signed up for around your body, your physical elements that are still needing to integrate. But, you just never know. So my suggestion to you is that if you're curious or wondering what's happening to you, just send an email. Now, I've also opened up a new 30-minute time slot for returning clients if they're interested in just a one zap kind of thing around one particular issue, particularly if it's pain related. That's just something I thought that might be helpful for the integration period rather than booking a whole session. Just email me and then we can problem solve together and work through those things. So I am going to leave you with a light language transmission for integration and for self-compassion and self-love, healing parts of you by sending love to the parts of you that you might be resisting, that might be hard to accept. The invitation is to open up your heart and trust that everything is happening exactly as you designed. Ko arae te kamakana si kotoai shanati ke ka arate. Sono ma te ka shaturu noae te kenamaka asati te arte. Shoi no moi narate kanasite ke arate kono asutukuro no maite. Soirata akanati. Sending you loads of love and wishing you all the best on your healing and spiritual journey.